All right. Hey guys, Kenny Stapleton here in the gun room. What I have here is the SLR rifle for this year's 3-gun competitions. I want to do a pretty decent review of it. Okay, so start out with, this is one of their new handguards. It's similar to the Ion, but this one was made for me, or prototype anyways. Real similar, except for it just doesn't have the QD mounts up here. Still has the factory QD mount here. The Ion, I believe, it still has one here. Like it either way. Wouldn't bother me one bit to have them up there and here. But, okay, so we have one of the new SLR BCGs, which this wait, hold on. This gun lockup is, I'm twisting on this thing. I don't know if you guys can see that at all, but the takedown pin, I mean, it pops right free. I mean, I've got some other billet chassis, and they are not this tight. This one does have, it does come with the option for the adjustable set screw to take up the slack in the receiver set, but I don't know if you can see the white head of it, but it's actually flush. I mean, it's probably a little bit below flush. The lockup on this thing is absolutely amazing. Anyways, we'll go over to the BCG. So, I'm sure as you guys have seen, there's plenty of tin BCGs. You know, they just wipe, they wipe up pretty easy. You know, just a little love, a little gun oil. But this one, since I put it together last Wednesday, so today is now, I don't even know what today is, Tuesday. Okay, so a little less than a week. This gun has probably pushing 600-700 rounds through it. So definitely, brand new build. It's running great. But they've been able to take a lot of weight out of the chassis, especially the receiver set, without actually making it skeletonized. So I know a lot of people are worried about things being quote unquote skeletonized. I've got some skeletonized guns, and they've always ran. I've done some 10K running guns and stuff with them, and I think it's just a lot of hype. If you've got a well-built gun, it's going to run. Now, I mean, obviously, if you run a stick all the way through it, yeah, it's probably not going to run correctly. But, I mean, I've drug them through the gravel, blah, blah, blah. But back to the SLR. So this one is an ambi setup. So you have a bolt release here, which is, I didn't, because I've never had an ambi setup, and I didn't know how well I would like it, or if I would actually really use it. But it is really nice. So especially if, certain things, if it's laid down on a table, or, it comes in handy. I can't really explain it. So if you throw a mag in, you can just bump that and go straight back out to your handguard. You don't have to worry about coming off of it, bumping and then getting this hand here. That time that you're bumping and pressing here, your hand could be going back out to the fore end for a proper sight picture, and then bam. So we'll demonstrate that, I guess. So, it's stupid simple. So the way it works is, this is it's built in. It's assembled pretty close to near just a factory mil-spec receiver set, except for under here there's a pin that goes through to the other side that actually pushes down on the bottom of your bolt release, I'm running a factory, or a Seekins bolt release. I had a factory one on it. I had extra Seekins, so I threw it on there. But with the Seekins, because it does have such a large paddle, I did have to grind off a little bit of the top of this, not much at all, but just to keep it from rubbing on the frame. It still functioned properly, but me being me, I didn't like the line on it, and I didn't want it to eat into the fancy Cerakote job that Deadlock Coatings hooked me up with. So I took a little extra time, filed that down, and works perfectly. So once again, I've come here, which my finger's off the trigger anyways. So here, bam, ready to roll. And I'm a really big fan of this, just because I've had buddies that run the bad levers, and I have seen way too many DQs, disqualifications, because of ADs or NDs, negative discharge, accidental discharge, because there's extra crap in your trigger guard. Guess what? The only thing that should be in your trigger guard is, yep, you guessed it, the trigger. Okay, that, and then I'm running a CMC 3.5 pound flat trigger, Seekins, Ambidextrous 60-degree throw, safety. And what's really nice is these have QD points built into the receiver set on both sides. So if you're like me and you're running a rifle stock, which this one has a QD mount here, I really like the Luth AR stocks, but I do not like this area of mounting, just because it wants to roll the rifle. So what I did is actually took one of the screws for the factory butt plate and took it out, and just took a longer screw with the a QD mount you can get offline, or a reasonable gun shop, and put it there. And the thing has ran perfect. Well, I don't know if it actually runs great, but it functions great. So it's there. It keeps my rifle from teetering. I do not like this feeling of when you have a rifle, because these optics, you start running a 1x6 or 1x8, they get a little top heavy. This rifle without this optic is really maneuverable, still really maneuverable, but you can definitely tell a big difference in throwing a 1.8 or 1.6 optic on the top of it. I'm running the Scalar Works Leap scope mount. This one's 34 millimeter tube. What's really nice about these is they're over-engineered. They're way over-engineered compared to probably any scope mount that you've ever seen in your life. So you've got adjustment screws here. So when you put it on, you just take and roll them with your fingers equally until it tightens up, and then it's locked down. You don't need any special tools, just hand tight. And how it works is it's on these rails here all the way across. These are actually the screws here, but there's rails. There's 4 of them. So it pulls it together equally, and it locks down very smooth. And I could take this thing off and throw it on another rifle without having to have extra crap in my bag. And another point of interest on the Leap mount is actually this red anodized screw. I don't know if you guys can see that really well. Okay, I got a flashlight. Okay, so the red anodized screw. So if you have a quality optic, everything is built off of the squareness of the central hub where your turrets are. So you can take your scope, throw it in there, and then tighten up your 4 screws here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Add to the point where it's still movable, but it's not loose. And then you just start taking and adjusting that anodized screw up until it pulls the teeter out of the scope. Then you go ahead, lock the screws down, and then you're ready to roll. And then with the mounting to the Picatinny, these are detinted through here on each side. One here and then one over here, my right hand. But they are detinted through there, so these will not back out. They are timed, so you have positive clicks of to where, you know, it tightens down and it stops. You don't have to worry about them reversing off with a lot of scope mounts, especially on a higher caliber rifle, which this is 223 with adjustable gas blocks, you know, and a kind of a tuned-ish buffer system. So this thing runs really flat, really flat. But I am running the SLR adjustable gas block, and the same thing with the SLR mount. These have, it comes with, you can get different sizes of these off SLR's website, and it's a 2mm ball, and then just drop it down in the front, and then it's got a little screw. It's detinted, so you have positive clicks on your gas system. You don't have to worry about extra screws. You know, you don't have to worry about your set screw and your actual gas screw. It's got positive clicks, so it stays where it's supposed to be. You don't have to, you know, take off your handrail. That's the one thing. I've ran the Seekins adjustable gas blocks for years, and that's one thing that is a slight pet peeve of mine with the Seekins is they're great gas blocks, but just the ease of tuning them. You got to take the handguard off. You know, you put it back on, and you know, most of the time you just leave it off. But this thing, you can assemble the whole chassis with a handguard on and tune it from there. You don't have to monkey with it. You can, you know, if you want to sight it in while you're doing that, that's very easily achieved. But this, running just a Radian Raptor ambidextrous charging handle. Running a lot of ambidextrous stuff, not for any particular reason. I'm not left-handed, but sometimes it is nice because we do have to shoot left-handed in comps. Not a lot, but we do. So let's see, what else have we got that's pretty slick on this thing. Oh, the mounting system for your barrel and your handguard. These screws, and you have a counter or an anti-rotation pin right here at the tip of my finger. I don't know if you guys can see it that well. Okay, yeah, right there. You throw that on, and it'll settle on your gas tube. So, God forbid anything, like if this thing did get loose, which very rarely doubt, it keeps it centered. You know, your pick rail and everything keeps it in a nice, orderly fashion. But these set screws are actually timed with, or I don't know if the time would be right, but they're milled to match the barrel nut. So two of these, so these bottom two closest to the receiver will only go here, and these two will only go here, because you have certain grooves cut in the barrel nut that affixates to, and it doesn't allow it to, you know, it would actually slide off. It would. So if these screws did get loose by any chance, it still wouldn't extend off, and then it still wouldn't rotate because of this gas tube keeper. So, I mean, it's like a built-in fail-safe of just being awesome. But the machining in this thing is absolutely awesome. I couldn't be more happy with this rifle setup. Well, I don't know if I'll be more happy, but I did order a double star ace stock for this, the new one, the ARFX, that's got multiple QD points that's already built into it. This one's actually, you know, back on my comp gun from last year. That way, you know, I'm used to it. May use it as a backup gun but this stock will be going back on that rifle, and I'm going to try out that new Ace. I just want to see how it does. I've got PRS stocks. Not a huge fan of the PRS stock. I would consider it. I'm not a fan of it for 3-gun. I do have it on a 20-inch double star national match gun. I like it for that gun, the PRS, but comp stocks, I don't think it's needed. I am a big fan of, and I know ambidextrous stuff does add more components to a rifle, which more components to anything is an area for failure. It increases your error margin when you add more stuff. But with the ambidextrous options on this, they're so straightforward, and there might be 2 extra pieces, counting this lever. Well, there's probably 4, counting this lever, a pin, and a spring. So that's not a huge deal. And all of the screws that are in this receiver set are actually screws. There's no pins, so you don't have to take and beat pins in, or worry about scratching up your receiver, or God forbid you don't have a punch or something. Usually everybody carries some sort of Allen key set with them to the range. You might not carry a hammer and punches, so that's one thing that I really like as well. But I'm running a 16-inch heavy fluted white oak armament barrel, and then I've just got a little SLR barricade stop on the front of it. I generally am here using my index finger to point anybody that has ran any sort of competitions or is an avid shooter, kind of understands the fact of, hey, that's over there, so I can point that general direction, and my body, my eyesight, everything's going to follow. That's why comp shooters and people that understand the mechanisms of a gun a little bit better run like full length handguards. This is a 16-inch barrel, so this is a 14.87 handguard. I know that's kind of random, but the longer that you can create that point of connection with a rifle, the more stable it's going to be. So I can use it to pull back into my into my body, and then I know we've all seen it. The guys that want to hold here, or cops have been taught, the mag well, you want to be able to, function inside of a close quarters or whatever. Well, guess what? I still have a 16-inch barrel. That's a typical M4 barrel, is 16 inches. So from here to here does not change my overall length of my rifle. Why would I not want to be able to manipulate this gun as well as I can in any fashion from going to here? Why would I want to do this? So if I've got this gun here, if I'm maneuvering, why would I want to do that? So I can take that rifle, if I need to clear, I can get that gun up here. I can, if I, room to room or around a barricade or car, whatever you need, you can pull here, you can tuck it up to your body and get it out of the way. So if I've got my hand here, I'm, why would that make any sense, or hold it, bam. Okay, I know that's kind of a tangent. I'm going to use Iraqi veteran 8888 as his use of the word tangent, because it's really easy. There's so many different aspects of shooting, and blah blah blah. But we're gonna get back to the gun. Sorry guys, but I am running a Trijicon 1:8 AccuPower. It's got it's 1:8 by 28. Obviously, it's an 8 power first focal plane. I really like this scope. But one thing that I did with this scope that I don't do with my other scopes is my my zero. So anybody that has ran the Trijicon 1/8s, on 8 power, it blows up the center, the very center duplex cross arrow, whatever you want to call it. So I would consider it the cross arrow, the very center. It is actually a little bit fatter than the rest of the reticle in the scope, which slightly annoys me, but I think I understand why they did it because of the illumination factor. You know, people turn it on. If you've got, you know, on 1 power, it's going to kind of be hard to see, whatever. I don't really use illumination at all. The only time I ever do run illumination is early in the morning and towards dark. You know, if, you know, the sun's not there, sometimes it's hard to, you know, depict where you're at on a target. So the illumination does help there, but I've never really ran it. Not really a huge fan of it. And you can get arguments against or for that anywhere. That's just my opinion. That's the way I like it. So what I did with this scope and the reticle is I actually set my zero on the top of the cross arrow. So if I have, there's my cross arrow. So when I hold on target at 100 yards, I'm holding right here. So I'll put the top of that cross arrow right in the center of my target. And that allowed me to get a better and a truer zero than with actually using the dead center of the reticle. Because if you're trying to group, or it's hard because it covers up what you're actually aiming at. So I was probably able to close my group at 100 yards, probably 3/4 of an inch, if not more, just because I could actually see and reference what I was aiming at that way. And then I've got a 400-yard target in my house. I got a 10-inch and 8-inch at 400 yards. And with that setup, it allows me to have a dead hold on the first mill cross, or on the first hash mark in this reticle. So I'm not even really having to use the entire reticle. I can use the center cross arrow for 100, 200, 300, and 400, just referencing off of that without actually having to try and get on target fast. And then, like, okay, am I holding at 2.5 or 3, or in between 2.5 and 3? Just using that center reticle, the center cross arrow, is really nice. So that is, I've kind of developed that little program for me in the past couple months. It just works better for me. But overall, this thing's pretty great. Pretty great. And we are running a SLR titanium. This would be somewhat of a brake, a comp, and a flash hider all in one. Works really well. The titanium, I have this in a stainless as well. I've never had a titanium brake, so I wanted to run it. When I first got it, of course, it didn't have any carbon or anything on it, so just the reaction of titanium with gunpowder and everything else, it throws some crazy sparks. But now that there's some carbon built up in it, it's, you know, in the baffles on the brake comp area of it, it's not throwing like as many as crazy sparks. So it's not intrusive to shooting. You know, it's not like, oh God, you know, the end of my barrel's gonna, you know, fly off and explode. But at first, man, it was pretty glorious. So we do have a little pick rail up front, and then with this Scalar Works mount, I have enough area back here as well to throw a set of 45-degree fixed irons on it. If need be, there's some competitions that is very usable. very, very usable, because on longer range targets, if you have your scope doped up to 200, 300, 400 yards plus, and they like throwing in short targets, they really do. So if you've got this thing battled up on 7, 8 power, and you're trying to hunt for a target that's 10 yards from you, it saves a little bit of time to just be able to take and go from here to here, bust a few targets, and then move back up, and I'm already zoomed in for those targets, to where I don't, I'm at 1 power, shoot those targets, come back off the gun, crank that thing up, and then go hunting, go target hunting. But that's function versus, the setup. So I really, really like this gun. Deadlock Coatings did this for me. It actually matches my jersey for this year. The jerseys are being made as we speak, so I cannot wait to get those and throw them up with the rifle and get some cool pictures and out to you guys and my sponsors. But they did a really bang up job. When I told them I wanted to do like kind of this pattern and the orange and stuff, they're like, man, I don't know how that's going to turn out. I was like, well, let's do it and see how it turns out. And so this is the, actually my shotgun was, they were doing it at the same time as this one. So my shotgun matches this, but they were really happy with the way it turned out. Then I got them back from Florida, and I was blown away, absolutely blown away on the job that they did. But if anybody needs kind of help, or maybe a link or kind of some contact info or anything that you've seen on this build, hit me up. I may not have contact info for everything, but quite a bit of a majority to this. And all the guys that I've mentioned in this video, so SLR Rifleworks, Scalar Works, CMC Triggers, One Shot Industries, all the stuff that I just mentioned, those guys, they're my sponsors. And I've got some few other sponsors that do gear, but that's a different job. But just tell me what you think about it. If any comments, feel free. All right. Thank you, guys. Bye.